What exactly is identity? Who gets to decide? What makes family? Access to genetic testing adds a new layer to these questions. Alexis Johnson is a poet, painter, and a professional DJ who was adopted as a child after his mother died. His intensely moving poetic memoir, Junkie Witness, chronicles Johnson's chaotic young life with, and later without, his mother. Alexis identifies as Black or biracial, but had no real knowledge of his genetic background. He took a DNA test in 2015.
I was adopted at age 9. But I was really in the foster home before I was actually adopted. My mother and I were in the woods. She was trying to get clean from heroin. And we were in the woods the summer before I was in the foster home. So I was in the foster home for about a month or longer, month and a half, and late October, my mother passed away. It appeared that my mom was estranged from her family. There was slim memories, a few memories of me visiting people who could have been relatives of mine, but I was too young to know or understand what was happening and who I was meeting. That's been a big question since. Not knowing who my mom's family is, and just immediately as a child, the concern of who's going to take care of me.
So again, no knowledge of your birth family beyond your mother. You knew your mom, you didn't know your father, and there may have been some folks that you met that might have been your mother's relatives, but they were never identified as that.
Yeah. Right. Yes, and my father was killed when I was only a month old. And when I was born, he went home to Ohio, where his family's from. And, to let his mother know, hey, I have a son, it's a great thing. And my father was there for about a week in February. And shortly after leaving his mother's house, driving on the way to come home to New York, he was stopped by the Ku Klux Klan and tied up and taken to a covered bridge in the same town, Oxford, Ohio, where he grew up, where my grandmother was from, and hung from inside the bridge. And it was the 100th anniversary of the bridge when he was hung. The bridge was built in 1868. Yes, February 1968. Yeah. My father was hung
in Ohio.
In Ohio.
Yeah. And at some point, you received documentation that states that he died by strangulation and
yes.
hanging.
Yeah. I have his death certificate. And that's very emotional.
Yeah.
I didn't know my father. I was only a month old. But ultimately, my life condition is that I have not had, other than my daughter, I have not had a relative that I could legitimately say was my relative.
Yeah.
And my father represents my Black identity. My mother was white, my father was Black, growing up, being light and mixed was a struggle. When I was with my mother, I was perceived as different, but I was still with my mother who's white. But, you know, you get to a certain age where you're in school and kids are pretty cruel sometimes, and it becomes, what are you? Who are you? And you spend many years in that realm of,
what are you?
What are you? Who are you? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why are you different than me?
Yeah.
Identity. Oreo cookie, white bread, high yellow, little nigger boy. I'm realizing it starts when I'm 5 or 6, treated differently than others. In the classroom, we all happen to be of color, shades of brown, not shades of pink. A little boy, dirty, lost, light brown. Confusion, obvious. First stages of discrimination. Before age 6, I have blue eyes, curly hair, but not African curls. Gender and race, an issue, an early issue of question. Ma'am, you have such a pretty daughter with beautiful eyes. Not a girl, a boy, a black boy, with a white mama. What are you? Human, man, poet. Provide the insecure breakdown of African, German, English, Spanish, Russian, Indian. Sometimes it would depend.
So, why was taking a genetic test important to you?
Well, I spent so many years feeling lost because for a lot of people in my situation, not having family is this big hole inside of you where you feel like, you know, your friends are always saying, oh, you have me and you have that person and this person, and they're always there for you, and you don't need fit to know family, you don't need to have those people around. But those people all have family, so they really don't know what it's like. So I spent a lot of adult years going back and forth with what should I do? What should I do about feeling like I don't belong, feeling like I just want to know where I came from. As much as you really want to know, it is 100% surprise because you know nothing. You're starting from zero. Sometimes you justify the anxieties of being afraid to find out by saying, you know, I'm good without it, right? I don't need the problems, right? Who knows what this will open up if I find these people. Maybe they're horrible people. Maybe they're really nice people, but I've spent all this time not being able to open up to someone. I'm closed. I might not be able to relate.
But to be clear, so the hesitations or reservations were as about identity, but also about the possibility of connecting to birth family through the testing process.
And of course, I found out I was Irish. 44%.
Do you recall other pieces of that breakdown?
Yes. 44% Irish, 36% sub-Saharan African, and approximately 16% Western European, and that was the majority of it. Actually, other people questioned this before I questioned this. Maybe I'm not black. I mean, ultimately, yes, I think there's brown in me, but I could have been Indian. So many things. Brown, not black. I could have been Mediterranean. I didn't even know. 2 years after I took the test, I received an email from a woman who said that she came up as immediate family. I contacted this woman, who could be my aunt, and went to visit her, and I guess someone in my position could understand this. It might sound a little weird for others, but I when meeting her, I felt my mother. Mm. I'm going to take another DNA test, but other than that, I'm still researching the best I can. My mother's name was Jennifer Margaret Mitchell, so I'm searching on the Mitchell name. Johnson is my last name, and my mother's married last name, which is my father. And I did find some of his family. When I took the test initially and I got my results, I did feel some level of relief in identifying myself. Oh, okay. Up until this point, had no mother, no father, didn't know where they came from, didn't know any ethnic backgrounds on either, didn't know anything about myself. And I think it's really important to confront these fears that a lot of people in my situation kind of get comfortable and numb. You shouldn't own being lonely. You shouldn't own being sad, not connected. You shouldn't own those things. It shouldn't be something to be proud of. Mm-hmm. And I would say that's the biggest part of why finding these things out are really important. And taking DNA tests and searching for your family.
Who I am.
And then there's also the people who don't believe in the ancestry and the 23andMe and all that. Yeah. They believe it's a scam. Right. I believe it's a scam, but not in the way that they believe it's a scam. Mm-hmm. I believe it's I'm a conspiracy guy. I believe it's another thing to collect DNA from people.
Mm-hmm. I think that is part of it.
They're logging DNA, mass counts of DNA. It's little things that you don't pay attention to. Hood DNA is collected through Springer and Maury because they do all those tests.
Yep, you're right.
You sign a waiver saying it's okay for them to have your DNA.
Right.
So they can get your DNA without criminalizing you. That's the old-fashioned way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every black person has to be arrested at least one time so we can get your DNA. So if we want to put a crime on you, we got you.